is a movie, and it started now. Forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello and welcome to Dad's Dating After Divorce, the only podcast that teaches you how to keep the romance alive while your ex-wife's nagging is playing on a loop in the back of your skull like a corrupted Spotify playlist. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I am the founder of The Divorce Advocate. My co-host, Dallas Bluth, founder of Black Box Dating. Dallas, how are you doing?
Been fabulous, Jude. Ready to talk about this record on loop in the back of my head. Yeah.
The record on loop. Well, you don't have a nagging ex-wife, so you don't have that record on loop in the back of your head. So,
but I want to know what
gift.
I want to know what to look forward to if I ever do have an ex-wife.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Well, just jump on over to the Divorce Advocate and get us some of our calls and, might sway you from, ever having an ex-wife, but we digress. So the foreshadowing of the joke, as usual, is I'm affectionately calling this episode The Gatekeeper and the Guest, because Dad's dating. We finally find somebody. We might get through some of like what we talk about in the early days of dating, and you're in the more of the relationship phase now, so you're doing things. You've introduced the kids at this point, and this has now all of a sudden triggered your ex-wife. And so I do want to be clear that there are lots and lots of exes that are healthy mentally and emotionally, and they've broken up, you've parted ways, you've remained amicable, and that they understand that having another woman that is healthy in their children's lives is a positive, because it reinforces all the healthy things that the mom brings to that. But so, and that's the best case scenario, right? It's not always like that. We have we are human, both of us, men and women, right? But also we have lots of folks that show up with just at the least, we'll call it some mental emotional issues. And so that's when phones start blowing up with 14 messages during the time where you're, maybe trying to have a romantic encounter with your new with your new love interest, and so you're trying to deal with what I would describe as like the middleman syndrome, right? Like trying to like stay present and keep your head in the game, literally, so the rest of your body can stay in the game, and but you've got this like. Just dude, like it's almost
2 words: airplane mode.
Yes,
it's my secret superpower when it comes to my mobile device, even without an X, is you put that sucker in airplane mode. It's totally different than having it on silent mode. I understand as a dad, you got to be available for your kids, but if you know the kids are taken care of, somebody else is responsible for them and all of that. Like, seriously, just unplug the phone so you don't have this other shoe waiting to drop in your mind emotionally, psychologically. You're like, oh, they're doing it. And, you see one message, you didn't reply, and suddenly it starts, like gremlins after midnight, like multiplying and multiplying in front of you. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Like airplane mode. You unplug, the whole thing, and you're completely present. Even if the phone, like the phone's on silent, it's not sending through notifications, but you're still knowing maybe something new came through, and oh my gosh, I got this thing queuing up. I just put it in airplane mode. When I have to do deep work, when I'm with somebody and I know that, there's nothing else being expected of me and I want to be fully present, I put it in airplane mode. When I'm on a date, for sure I'm doing it. And if I knew that there were like some fireballs that were going to be coming out of left field at me, you can be dang sure I'd be putting it in airplane mode whenever I can.
Yes. And that's it, guys. Episode, put it in airplane mode, problem solved. Our work is done here, guys. You're welcome. Okay. Well, no, and I tease a little bit, but I agree 100% that is a tremendous way to deal with things. Let's work back. This is not what I had envisioned, and I have my notes, right, and my outline. Let's work backwards from that, because I think that's part of the solution of what you do with your environment in mitigating some of this. But so let's working backwards from there, though. Let's talk. I want to start with talking about what I always talk about, which is you've got to have your environment structured to where you can then mitigate some of this just by putting it on airplane mode. And that goes to what we talk about. It seems like almost every episode now, Dallas, is taking some time to get your life structured with your kids so that you kind of know what's going on and how reactions are going to start happening. Because this is whatever this behavior might be, or whatever problems or challenges you might be facing with your ex, this isn't going to be the first time. But if you haven't taken the time to get through those seasons, like I say, to get things settled with your kiddos, really to be in a place to be dating and in a relationship. So hopefully you've done all of that. And if you have done all of that, then you will understand better, not maybe completely or entirely or have the playbook down or know how to handle all of it, but you're going to better understand kind of this relational dynamic that you were in with your ex-wife, how she's react, how she used to react, what you brought to this relationship and to this dynamic, how you can do better. And then this is going to help you better figure out how to mitigate this with your new partner.
Yeah. When it comes to structures, I think we have to look at this almost like you're an auto manufacturer, like you're Honda coming to your assembly lines, realizing that you have a structure in place, but you're going to be improving on it every single year. You're never done optimizing. You're never done improving. The boundaries that you have in place, great. Well, maybe that ex-wife finds a way around that boundary, or she's found a crack in it, or something like that. Or we set the boundary in place because that's the best solution. That's the best way of expressing a boundary, that we have today. Give yourself 6 months or a year. You will have outgrown that structure, and it's time for a new structure. Just like the hermit crab, crawling around on the floor of the ocean, you outgrow your shell and you got to find a bigger shell. And then, however, I don't know how fast hermit crabs grow, but whatever period of time it takes, you outgrow that one and have to find a bigger one. The structure that we're working with, we need to realize that it's sort of a paradox. On one side, it is firm, it's strong, it's stable, it's lasting. You can count on it, and everyone else, whether they like it or not, they can count on it. And at the same time, it's a living, organic part of you that should be growing and evolving and improving for the sake of your efficiency, for the sake of your production and what you want to be experiencing, for the sake of your children, for the sake of the gatekeeper wife that, whether she realizes it or not, these boundaries are good. And for the sake of the, guest, the girlfriend coming into the picture. And I would say that's the person that's going to be in a lot of ways the most sensitive to this, is how, the better you have your structures in place and the better you are continually improving them, the more attracted that woman is going to be to your life.
Hey, dads, this is Jude taking a quick break from this week's episode to encourage you to do two things. One, if you were like me going through your divorce, you had no idea what you were doing. That's why I founded the Divorce Advocate, to help you strategically get through your divorce. And if you have some challenges post-divorce, to remedy those. I'm going to encourage you to go to thedivorceadvocate.com, take the weekend visitor risk assessment. It's going to give you an idea of where you're at and kind of what things are going on and how we might be able to help you out with anything. The second is, if you're ready to up your dating game, go to blackboxdating.com, get involved in Dallas's community. I've been dating now post-divorce for 13 years. And every week that I chat with Dallas and we record this episode, I learn something new. There's absolutely nobody better that's going to help you find that relationship and get back in the dating game than Dallas. Check out all that he's got to offer at blackboxdating.com. All right, back to the show. Yeah, I really like that analogy of the updating or the upgrading of the vehicle models, right? We see that all the time. They're coming out with new resources, new technology, better ways to manufacture cars, and so that yeah, I like that. And that's exactly the same thing that we're going through as dads, going through a divorce and post-divorce. And whether you like it, well, whether you wanted the divorce or not, whether you like it or not, it is happening to you. We are literally forced to have to upgrade ourselves to life 2.0 because we're going through this. So just going through this process, dads, means that you are upgrading your model to the next level. Now you can embrace that, or you can fight against that. You can be the purist who wants to keep that old model because it doesn't have turbocharging on it, or whatever newfangled thing on it, or you can upgrade this model. And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but yeah, I agree. And that is the choice. The choice, however, is if you're going to be stubbornly stuck in your old ways, you're rigid, you're calcified, you are not growing. And a man who is rigid and not growing is not going to be attractive to the prospects that he's attracted to. In a lot of ways, this is a question of humility. If I think this is how it is, I think this is how it should be, and I'm not really looking or open-minded and actively seeking within myself in a first-person way ways to continually improve my boundaries and my structure because I think I have it all figured out, well, that's pride getting in your way. And, similarly, if I don't want to change anything, well, because it seems like too much effort, okay, that's slothfulness, that's laziness getting in your way. Guys, women are not attracted to men that are lazy. Women are not attracted to men who are prideful and think they have everything worked out. Women are attracted to men that are constantly taking their shovel, digging into the ground, unearthing new discoveries, and are constantly evolving and growing and changing as a result. Those men have a nice, healthy flexibility to themselves. Again, paradoxically paired with a nice, firm structure because they can see, you know what? I'm digging up new stuff. I'm seeing these old principles that I live by really do still apply.
Yeah, and being able to have those conversations. So having taken that time, dads, and then being able to convey that to your new romantic interest is really, really important. And so to that point, if you've done that, then one of the first things you can do and you can talk about is what the dynamic is, what the dynamic might have been, what the dynamic currently is, how you're mitigating it, how she fits into the picture. And like you said, that is attractive. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know precisely. You don't have to have your finances all in 100. Like all this, no. Most women are going to be like, "Hey, yeah, he's reflecting on stuff. He's working on being a better man." It's incredibly attractive when you're working on being even a better dad, right? You're already a good dad. You've already gone through this. You've already shown resilience, and you're interested in somebody else and bringing her into your life. Like you've already done lots of really cool stuff that are really attractive to her. And then now, you're sharing kind of this dynamic, even if it's a difficult dynamic, dads. That's even something that's sexier for her if you're mitigating this and communicating and talking with her about it, because the flip side of this is it can deepen your relationship with her. If you're going to her talking, she is a woman, she likely has kids, or like at least has been around kids. Being able, and we've talked about this before, is soliciting feedback from women is a great way to deepen a relationship.
Yeah. When you're soliciting feedback, you are demonstrating that you value her as a person. Women are always asking this question. Is he just physically attracted to me? Is he just after sex? Is he just after, pleasure? And, does he just want me to come over and help clean up the place? Is he looking for a live-in maid that he has benefits with? Women are constantly asking these questions. When you ask her, I'm running into the situation. What's your take on it, either with your children or with your ex? And you say, I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just am looking for a larger perspective than the one that I have on my own. This is what I see, but what do you see? That is acknowledging and valuing her as a person, as a woman, as an adult, as bringing value to the table. That's treating her like a potential future partner in your life. Again, don't do that date 3, don't
Yes.
do it until we've established a little bit, that it works between the two of us. And you're not looking to outsource, you're looking for additional wisdom in the counsel of others outside of yourself. That's what this is about.
And I would say, because I like to have guidelines, right? I would say this is, I'm calling them guidelines now. Give me some credit, Dallas. I'm down from rules to guidelines. Okay.
I am all in favor, Jude. I am all in favor of this. Yeah.
I am growing. I am evolving. Right. Yes. Okay. But I would say these conversations are happening when you're either determining to become exclusive or you've just decided to become exclusive, because this is going to have a huge that in and of itself is going to have an impact on your life and your kid's life, because the next phase is potentially introducing this person after you've been exclusive for a while. This is also when things potentially start to become challenging because your ex starts to act out, and some of it's not conscious. Some of it is absolutely conscious, but some of it is just moms being moms and concerned and worried, just like we have when a male partner is introduced to our children as well. Look, any guy is not, you're lying if you don't tense up when you hear that happening or the potential of that happening, right? So the same goes for mothers as well. So that is about the time when you're having this conversation. And I would encourage to have the conversation earlier than later, because you're leaving a lot up to speculation and up to like the unknown and doubt.
Which conversation are you talking about specifically in this situation?
I'm talking about setting the tone and talking about kind of the dynamic of what's going on and how the relational dynamic has been, what boundaries you might be setting now, Is this
a conversation you're having with the girlfriend?
With your new new romantic partner.
Interest.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
exactly.
You're explaining to them what the dynamic is with your ex-wife, with your children, yes, what the setup is. And we're talking about beyond logistics, because, for example, as a single man, when I meet a single mom, first question is, how much of the time do you have your kids? Yes. And the reason I'm asking that question is I need to know what her availability is to spend time with me, get to know me, and see if our connection works together.
Right.
Is that? But we're talking.
No.
That's
now we're talking past.
That's a first
we're talking
date.
past that. Yeah.
That's a first date, second date question. Mm-hmm. That's logistics. Okay. So the conversation that you're talking about right now goes beyond that. What is in that conversation? I've never had that conversation. Well, I guess I've been on the receiving end, but I have never had to share it. Can you tell me what you're divulging when you're having that conversation?
So going to what you always say, which is you're not necessarily bringing up a conversation, but what you're doing is you're creating the environment to allow her to know and feel comfortable that you have this under control, right? Like you understand what the dynamic is. If there are questions that come up that she brings up, or like, how do I fit in? Or what does this look like when we're doing transitions, or am I going to meet your kids? That you've already thought through this, that she's not just the second person in this. Your whole life is just not happening, and that she's just kind of there, right? Like you understand that the beginning part is logistics. This next part is relational dynamics. Like, how is this relation happening? How is this relationship going to go forth? what is your, what is your ex-wife like? What can she expect? Like, I'll give you an example. For mine is very meddling, right? I know that she's going to create problems. She's going to attempt to create problems. No matter what I've done and how much I've insulated or isolated any romantic partner, she's going to attempt to do stuff. And when I say attempt, like, let your mind wander. It's just crazy, stupid crap, right? That's something that I'll have a conversation about up front. And that's something that I need to give a warning to. So it is an actual conversation that I need to have before it happens, because if it happens, it can blindside somebody. So I've got to have the conversation of, hey, this has been the dynamic that has happened over the years. Now I've got, 13 years of dating, so I pretty much know the playbook. And I can say there's a high probability that, she's going to try to contact you, or she's going to reach out to you on social media, or, or she's going to do something or whatever. And so just know that's going to happen, and just feel free to ignore it. There's nothing that you need to do, or you're not going to get pulled into any situation, because I have got it handled, and I know what the situation is. I know how she's going to show up. So that would be kind of an extreme one, right?
Okay. Yeah, so that speaks to the first ingredient of creating the chemistry with a woman, which is safety. And when you first meet a woman, first date, second date, she wants to know if she's safe in your presence with you as a man. But as you're deepening into the relationship, there's a lot of unknowns here that she's may never see actually at all. And they may come out of left field. And it sounds like part of this conversation is essentially setting expectations on her end as far as what's going on and what to expect. I'd say probably a big part of that is knowing that she can lean on you whenever she needs to. Again, the girlfriend can lean on you whenever needed to unload this, and she doesn't feel like she's going to have to, deal with a bunch of, enemy fire coming at her. Is that in a lot of ways what's actually trying to be communicated here? Is here's the parameters, and I want you to know what you're getting into so that you feel safe, and so that you don't get caught off guard, and so that you can come to me and I am on your side 100% of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's such a complex dynamic, right? When you get into blended families, that by leading up front with this, guys, and that's why it's so important to have done your work before getting into this, because we're not even talking about kids and dynamics with her and kids and then all of that. So we're just simply talking about your relationship with her, which is already complex because you've got somebody else in there. It's not as easy as just like it was before when two people are showing up and creating that safety and comfort with somebody. There's a lot more that goes into it. And if you've got an ex that is problematic, that just creates an additional layer. And if she's got, and her only example has been an ex that is problematic, or an ex that doesn't show up in that way, has not been doing things in a manner that is respectful with his new romantic interest. Like there's all this uncertainty out there, and at this age now, she's likely also dated other fathers that might not have handled this as well. So there's all these complexities that go with it, and all the background, which we talk about all the time. And so it comes down to effective communication, right? And what we need to provide her within the context of a relationship, or a woman in her feminine in the context of a relationship, and us as showing up as the masculine in the relationship.
So if we were to break down this conversation a little bit, part of it is, as a dad, I am presenting to her what she can expect, what the situation is, what sort of the parameters are. And that's mostly so she knows what to expect and she can feel safe.
Yes.
I imagine part of this conversation is, now that I've shared that with you, my dear, what would be helpful to you in order to feel safe? What do you anticipate needing? What can I do in this situation to really make you feel prioritized, to make you feel welcome,
yes,
to make you feel like you're not a second-class guest citizen in this house when you're here, to make you feel like you're not caught in the middle of something? And I think inviting her and asking her, and this is not a one and done question. This is something you want to continually come back to, is what would help you feel more safe in these situations? What could I do? I think that open invitation to her, because what women might hear if I'm like, hey, here's what might happen and here's what you do. She's like, okay, but how do I feel? What do I do with my feelings in the midst of that?
Right.
And if I just leave it at giving her the information, she could feel kind of like she's like, here's your canoe and here's your paddle. Good luck, in navigating all of this. But if I open it up to, what could I do to help you feel better in any of these scenarios? What could I help you do going forward? And this would be something that you want to check in on, obviously, whenever there is any conflict, any drama, anything coming out of left field. You want to continually say, hey, what can I do to help you feel welcome, to help you feel prioritized? Asking that question, telling her those things, obviously, you are important to me. You are a high priority. Obviously, I have to take care of my kids. Obviously, they do come first because they are my dependents. But I do not ever want you to feel like you're out in the cold. I never want you to feel like you're by yourself. I never want you to feel like I don't have your back. What can I do to help you feel those things? Not think, not know, but feel. Because again, this is all about what is a woman's experience when she's with the man, physically or just in general in the relationship. This woman wants to feel safe. This woman wants to feel like this beast of a man, that she's with has got her back and that she's never going to be alone in these situations.
Right. And wouldn't you say also that applies to sharing how you're feeling also? Because if you're not able to be if you're not able to share if something's going on, right, and you're not able to share, or you're not sharing your feelings, she's going to pick up on that. And if you are able to share it in an appropriate way, in a positive way, so that she is, I guess it comes down to making her feel like she's safe, but also making her feel like she's like in the information loop, right? Like she's not just this outside part of your life that is, just orbiting around, that she's in the information loop, that's going to make her feel safer. And then if you're inviting her in with questions about, well, what do you think about this? Or what feedback do you have, et cetera? That's where you can deepen the relationship. But again, you got to lead with that. So maybe what you're saying, Dallas, is lead with how you're feeling, and then if there is a situation, and then also ask her like what you can do to make her feel comfortable.
Yeah. So this is a slippery slope. So obviously, we're not talking about the early dates. We're talking about once you're involved in the relationship. Once you're involved in a relationship, you're inviting her, into your life more closely. That woman does want to know what's up. If you're having a bad day because, your ex-wife chewed you out, or you're having to go into the court, because of this, or we've got this thing happening now, or whatever, she wants to know the information of what's going on, because she doesn't want to be in the dark. She doesn't want to be guessing. She doesn't want to feel like she's on the outside and doesn't know what's going on. Okay. Sharing with her what is going on, those are facts, that's information. And you can also tell her, and this is really draining me at the moment, so I'm sorry if I'm not coming with the normal smile on my face that I like to. Again, that's information. I'm telling her this is the state that I'm in. Like, I've been up 3 nights in a row having to deal with this, whatever it might be. Giving her information about that. Okay, that's all not only okay, but that is to be encouraged once you're inviting her into your life. Okay, the slippery slope, though, is you leaning on her for the emotional support. Mm-hmm. And that we need to make a clear distinction. Asking her for her input, what do you think about this situation? That's great. But if you're like, well, we really need to kind of like work through this or figure it out. Okay, that just went into a whole nother territory where she's feeling like she's carrying the burden. And it is so fast and easy for us to slip from sharing with a woman what's going on into burdening her with some sense of responsibility of taking care of us as a man, recharging us, figuring out, what should I do, picking up some of the slack. Okay, that's the part that we have to really, really, really guard against. when we're having these conversations with the woman. You want to give her transparency. She has the knowledge. She knows what's going on. She doesn't feel like she's on the outside, but you are not now treating her like some kind of a resource to support you, to energize you, to pick you back up. That's coming back to the original question of your structure and your frame. That structure and frame happens within yourself first. Knowing that I want this woman to have visibility into me, but that I am a self-sustaining man. Protector and provider. The first thing for the guys that don't realize this, like we always think of protecting and providing as being external. Your job as a man, number one, is to protect and provide for yourself. You know, that whole analogy on the airplane where put on your own oxygen mask before you help anyone else. That's protecting and providing for yourself, literally protecting yourself from suffocation, providing for yourself the air that you need to breathe. You're providing those things for yourself before you help externally. In these situations, you have to protect and provide for yourself, and then protect and provide for the children, and protect and provide, for your girlfriend. You can't, when we stop doing that and we get into this weird kind of enmeshed code, like she's helping me feel better and this and that, it gets real messy. And it might feel okay in the beginning, but you keep going with that, it's going to get muckier and muckier as you go.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I didn't even really think about that, because that's what I see a lot of times with the dads is it becomes, and usually it's just carrying over the same relational. Look, I was guilty of it too, right? Carrying over the same relational dynamic you had with your ex and then into that new relationship, as opposed to learning to stand. That's why I say, go through the seasons, learn to stand on your own, figure your what out, and then you can show up in a different way. God, guys, listen, like the dads that I talk to that get into a relationship right away and then that relationship fails, oftentimes describe it as being even more emotionally brutal and upsetting and heartbreaking than their divorce themselves. And it's usually because they have not, like, they've just perpetuated the same thing. And so what you're saying is incredibly, incredibly important, is that you've got to go and do that work so that you don't then go and do that and place that on her. Like, man, like literally, I had a consult with a dad a couple of months ago, and his new girlfriend scheduled the consult, and his new girlfriend was literally sitting on the other side of the monitor, and he was like asking her, like, what's my parenting time? When do I have the kids? Yeah, with the girlfriend. And she's like repeating. And I finally had to be like, all right, dude, like, you've got to get your life together first. Like, your girlfriend schedule this, which is fine. I appreciate that she cares about you.
Your girlfriend is your mom in that situation.
Complete night. This is a nightmare, and this is not like. And then your ex is like you've got to like time out. And I didn't say like you got to get rid of your girlfriend right there, but like I was like, you need to like figure out what you've got going on first, because you can't even tell me when you have your kids. So yeah. So do not like. That is worst case. That's worse. That's an extreme example. But what you're talking about, which is, you don't want to go into mom territory or a therapist. You want feminine feedback, like you would get feedback from maybe another professional. If you can look at it that way, right? Like, you appreciate what she can bring to the table, what her viewpoints are, et cetera, but you're not depending on her for it. That's why you've got to have a Dallas in your life. You've got to have a therapist, like whatever you need to have in your life to bolster you, to bring you to where, into the man that you need to be. In order to do that, you need to have that. She can't be that for you.
Yeah. The word you use there is dependent. If you are dependent, she's not a partner. She's some kind of a mother. You cannot be dependent on her. You need to be internally self-sufficiently dependent. You have to win that dependence on yourself, which makes you, when you're depending on yourself, that makes you independent. That is where you have to start. And again, I mentioned it earlier, it's a slippery slope. It is so quick and easy because particularly when, a woman's in love with us and she's starting to be very nurturing and very caring, it's so easy for us to relax, and you want to be able to relax. She wants you as a man to be her man. And her man doesn't always have to be strong. He can relax. He can allow her as a woman to take care of him and nurture him. That's all good parts of the relationship. But it is a very, very easy, quick place to slip over into dependency. That dependency really, really has to be fought against, because once you start going down it, boy, it is hard to get back up on your feet in yourself. And then you essentially, let's just go into this slightly. If you find yourself, and this doesn't just apply with, ex-wives, being in the mix, this can happen at any point in dating for any man. You can get swept up in the wonderful vibes and love and feeling and affection and nurturingness and just generosity of the feminine nature. And because it is intoxicating, and you can essentially kind of like have one too many, so to speak. And then suddenly you've slipped into dependency mode. It's going to happen sometimes, unfortunately, and you want to allow yourself to fully bask in the beauty of her feminine energy. But if you find yourself now kind of dependent, kind of leaning on her for things, and this is where you hear stories about, boyfriend and girlfriend living together and the woman's paying all the rent. That's sort of an extreme example, but it happens all the time. And I listen to women talk about this. I'm like, how are you putting up with this? Well, they're in that mode of giving and being nurturing. As a guy, whenever you see yourself looking at her as being the provider for you, okay, you're no longer in your masculine frame. And you need to put that bottle down. You need to stop drinking the intoxicating effects of this woman, stand back up. And what you do is you make an apology to that woman. And you say, you are amazing. And you know what? You kind of swept me off my feet here for a minute. And I realized I went into a passive place. I went into a more receiving place. And that is not where I want to be with you. And even almost more importantly, that's not where I want to be in myself as a man. So I'm sorry. And you can make it kind of fun and say like, it's this, I'm also kind of blaming you because you're that wonderful, and you make me feel that amazing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but you can say, you know what, babe, I need to get back up and go back to the gym. I need to get back up and get my butt back out there and make some money. I need to get my life back on track and going in a direction. And I'm sorry it got knocked off course. I just want you to know I'm prioritizing that right now.
Yeah, and that's course correcting. That's okay, right? Like we all have to do that.
Exactly. And when we don't, just to be clear, that's when the woman starts to nag.
Right.
Because her instinct knows what track we're supposed to be on. But when it comes from her, we hate it. We lock up those gears. We don't want to hear any of it. Guys, that's because we're not looking at ourselves honestly in the mirror and asking ourselves, are you on track? Are you going somewhere? Is your masculine frame something that is growing and getting stronger and more effective week by week by week?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, we're not saying you got to have all this dialed in, guys. This is a perfect example of, hey, you can, of course correcting and looking and identifying within the relationship where it is that you're not showing up. Again, this needs to be, looking at yourself in the mirror most of the time. If you're not getting the results that you want, you need to look at what you are doing, right, in order to try to move things in the direction. And then if you're still not getting it and you are trying, then maybe there's reason for that relationship to end. But again, it is self-reflection. It is looking at yourself. It doesn't mean not dating. You're not going to get to nobody. Dallas isn't, I'm not, like anybody is to 100% where we've got it all figured out. And we know how to get into the relationship. We know how to have all the conversations. We know how to mitigate. It's never going to happen. So that's why your point, Dallas, about course correcting, like, that is a sexy thing too for her when she sees her man go, absolutely. Hey, like I fell down, but watch what happens when I get up.
Yep. Yeah. She will respect you even more when you take ownership and when you put yourself back on course. She will respect you even more. Yeah. This is, and an important thing is like no man has this all figured out. Anybody that is, take a step back because he's a little overinflated in the ego. And it's like that by design, because if we had it all figured out, we would stop growing. and you're either growing as a man or you are shrinking and dying as a man. It's one of the two. You need to continue growing. That requires effort. That requires putting yourself out there. That requires facing fears. That requires all kinds of things. And it requires going into the unknown. We are growing into a space that we've never been before. That's part of it. We're not doing something wrong because we're going into the unknown and we're scared. We're doing something right because we're going into the unknown and feeling scared.
Right. And so I want to transition this to the and part and why everything that you've described and we've talked about up to now is important too, is because of your kids. Because what may happen if your ex just starts to act up, has whatever issues going on, then your kids are going to get put in the middle of this. And you need to know, you need to be able to be solid enough to work through that. Now that could be the gatekeeping, as I alluded to in the beginning, where your kids start getting kept because of her issues going on. And then maybe you're going to have to move from co-parenting to parallel parenting, which is, your environment is completely different, but that's okay. And you're going to have to understand how to communicate that with your kiddos in a way that is kind and respectful, but also helps them to understand what the values are behind it in your household, which is going to be a positive thing for your kids, because trust me, and I can say this now after 13 years now, almost, we're coming up on 14 years. Your kids see and they will figure it out eventually. So while I was in the middle of it and having to do this parallel parenting and that, my kids now see what that was about. Now, not everything, right? And I'm not ever going to share, and you're probably never going to share all the intimate details of all of this stuff. But they look back, and what they do see is they saw dad. They saw dad, whether, he was showing up perfect or not showing up, but he was showing up. He was resilient. He was make the effort. Like your point about the effort thing is, we as humans, and especially during a difficult time like this, we want, like, I hear guys like, well, why can't you just make it easy? Well, I would encourage you to say, thank you for not making it easy, because I'm going to be a better and bigger and stronger man coming out of this because you've made it so hard on me. Now, I know that's hard to wrap your head around, guys, during this process, but your kids, I promise you, if you are showing up in that solid way and building this foundation and getting through things like that, then, man, like, you have just modeled something that, and here's probably one of the main points I want you to take away, dads, is that you've modeled something for your kids that you probably weren't going to be able to model if your relationship with your ex-wife had stayed together. You're going to model something so difficult and challenging that you got through in a positive way and showed them resilience and coming out even better on the back end of this, that, like, very few other ways in your life you would have been able to model for them.
Yeah.
That's huge.
The resistance is the opportunity to model strength, because strength only grows from the application of strength.
Yes.
Our strength only gets stronger because we have resistance. So that's why we call it resistance training in the gym. And that's just a physical scenario for us, which can be extended as a metaphor to lots of other areas. We have to have resistance. This is what conflict is all about in relationships. It's the opportunity to grow stronger. Jude, I have two questions, sort of logistically, on how it works in a divorce. One is, does your relationship with a girlfriend ever get turned around on you in court? As in, he's brought this woman into our child's lives, and that's now creating more complications? And
absolutely.
Two, is it ever defined in I don't know, the divorce agreements or court orders or whatever they are, is it ever defined that what the parameters are for introducing a romantic partner into the children's life? I'd like to know how that plays out.
Yeah. Your first question, about can it be used in court? Absolutely, positively. And the way that it can be used is that he's not focused on the best interests of the kids, which is helping them to get stabilized and creating a life after divorce in his household. He's maybe found somebody else. He's married if he's trying to move or like doing any kind of crazy things. Or the big one is if he's diverting any kind of financial resources to a new love interest. That's the really, really big one that the court then starts to go, like, what are you doing? You haven't figured this out. You're not paying attention to your kids. You might not be taking advantage of or doing the parenting time plan that you're supposed to be doing. So it can be a huge distraction. If somebody wants to, and even if it is not a huge distraction, somebody can attempt to use that as a narrative in court. Something that we talk about all the time in the community is about the narrative that's created in the courtroom or in court. That is how family court works, is through narrative. It's not through any kind of clear and convincing evidence or anything like that. It's a narrative. A judge is going to make a decision based upon, I call it the 51% rule, just that they believe the other party just a little bit more than you, because all they need to do is have a preponderance of evidence. So if you're distracted with a girlfriend, or you're spending money and you're taking trips or whatever, and they're bringing that, it just goes to that preponderance of evidence that you're a bad dad or whatever it might be. So
I would imagine jumping into a relationship pretty quick after the divorce would make that narrative easier for someone to spin up. Where if you take a year, like you're saying, to go through all of the seasons before you become involved with somebody, that narrative is a little bit harder to draw.
Much harder. And at the very least, until your documents are signed and you're done and it's officially over. And again, we're not saying, guys, don't date, don't have interactions, warm interactions, don't cultivate out there. But we're just saying focus on what you need to focus on long-term and bigger picture. And it's just going to serve you much better.
So what about the agreement of how boyfriends and girlfriends are going to come into a play? Is that ever part of the agreement?
It's very common to have that in an agreement. It's virtually never, ever executed or
enforceable.
The court enforceable. Thank you. That's where I was looking for. The court really can't enforce any of that. So oftentimes it will be put in, and I highly recommend putting it in. It just helps to keep both parties honest about things and hopefully doing the right thing with that. But when it comes down to it, if one or both parties just want to disregard it, going back to court on it will just piss off the judge. And so it's not enforceable.
So, okay, it might not be enforceable, but does it help, do you think, with the communication with your ex to go, hey, look, this is what we decided on? Does it provide, but as opposed to just a blank canvas, do you feel that it can provide some element of structure to the conversations and go, look, we talked about this. This is what we decided. Do you feel that helps at all in the communication with your ex?
I don't know if it helps in the communication, but the individuals that are healthy and doing this in a healthy manner, they're going to do it anyway, and the ones that aren't going to do it anyway. So it's good to have in there so that it keeps the honest people honest, and they're just going to say, hey, I agreed to this, and maybe it's uncomfortable or maybe I don't want to do it, but really I know it's in the best interest of my kiddos, and we're going to spend the time talking to each other about our new romantic partners so that everybody feels comfortable.
I would imagine that would also be a useful component to share with the girlfriend. Saying, well, this is what we agreed on, theoretically, this is what we're going to it. So this is the way we go about it. Now, we've struggled in the past to be able to follow this to the letter, but this is in theory what we agreed to. I think that could be rather reassuring to somebody on the outside and provide a whole lot of clarity to at least say, well, this is what we both signed to, and we'll see, whether, how well it plays out. That at least helps her know it's not just, you're saying this, your ex-wife is saying that. It's like, well, we both said this. And I'm doing my best. I'm making a good faith effort to adhere to this because we agree this is the best for the kids. I feel like that could really, again, help provide a sense of safety for the new person coming into the relationship. Yeah. Just a couple of thoughts.
I agree with that 100%. And that's one of the conversations that I try to have up front early, which is kind of giving an idea of a timeline of what this is going to look like potentially based upon our mutual agreements and how we convert, like how we feel about doing this. Like I'm going to include her in, hey, you know, this is kind of how I've done it. I found that it's either successful or this isn't successful.
Yeah.
What has been your experience, especially if she's been divorced and has kids? And this is what I feel is an appropriate timeline. And let's talk about that. And then, but also know that I have a plan. This is kind of my plan. I'm leading with this plan, and you don't have to worry, right? Like you said, I don't want her to be constantly worrying about, well, like what's going to happen. Like if there's ever doubt in her mind, then I feel like I've failed as leading our relationship. If there's doubt in her mind about anything that's going on, particularly with my kids or the timeline or my ex or anything like that. If she's got doubt, and then you're going to see that. Like if you're paying attention, guys, you're going to see that there's that doubt, and it might show up in just not being available or not wanting to engage or being detached or the opposite, you know, like really acting out and trying to take control of situations, or like you said, nagging, or like maybe overly giving you advice.
Yeah. You never want the woman you're with to doubt who you are and where you stand. And I think when we were talking earlier about giving the woman transparency into the situation, but not putting dependency on her to necessarily have to fix anything, when she has transparency, that goes a long way to somebody not doubting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So though that's really all of it in a nutshell. Like you've got to be the, like I said, like you got to be the hero of your own story, guys. And so that's why showing up in this way is absolutely critical. And guys, dads listening, if there's a theme you keep hearing from Dallas and I, it is like you've got to do the work up front in order for this to happen on the back end. And look, I know I am the poster boy for not doing that. Like, not if we could go back and maybe someday we'll do this and then go through the timeline of all the crap that I did wrong in this. I'm truly the poster boy of not doing this, not getting your stuff in a pile, not having those right conversations. I did all this wrong in my first relationships, right? And so like I tell my daughters, just learn from all the stupid stuff that dad did. Try not to do it again. Learn from me.
Please. Yes. Take all my broken bits. Yeah. Exactly. And never, ever forget any of them. Right. That'll make us feel good.
You know what we should do? We should go back and interview all of my exes.
Well, that would be fun.
Oh my God. Would that be a nightmare? God, that might be I don't want to say fun because I don't know how fun that would be, but
Juicy.
That would be informative and interesting to do. I don't know if we could, locate any of them outside of the
Let me just add to that. We have to figure these things out on our own, and there's a limit to what we can figure out on our own. We have to get real with ourselves, and it's not just, and this isn't you do one and then you do the other. Get square with yourself. And then you go out into the wild world, and what does the military like to say? No plan survives contact with the enemy. So I've got it all figured out inside myself. I go out into the wild world, and I find out I actually only have some of it figured out, kind of.
Yeah, right.
Because I've hit contact with the enemy, and my plan just broke into a bunch of pieces. And then you start looking like Jude showing his daughters, learn from all dad's mistakes. Look at his broken plans. What I want to restate is that we're never done growing. Part of it we do on our own. Part of it we do out there in the wild, in the field, recreationally. learning how to deal with the conflicts and learning along the way. It's not about doing it perfectly. It is about learning about yourself and doing it better and better, because there is no upper limit to how authentic you can be. There's no upper limit to how strong and beautifully stabilizing your masculine frame can be. And there is definitely no limit to how far and exciting you can grow as an individual. And when you're on the path doing all those things, not just before you're dating, but while you're dating every woman, when you're asking yourself, how could I be communicating this better? How could I be making this woman feel even more safe and stable in this situation? How could I make my kids, feel even better about, in all of this stuff that they're having to go through? How can I be showing up even better with my ex to be more effective? It's always on us that we have to ask this question, because that's the only thing we have control over. And we have to prepare by ourselves, but we very much have to realize that this is a shoot from the hip scenario in a lot of ways. And we have to learn along the way en route.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're in that phase, guys, that's seasons and still trying to figure it out, go to thedivorcedadvocate.com, become part of the community there. We've got lots of guys that are in that phase. Or if you've kind of gone through and done some of that work already, go to Black Box Dating and you're ready to take it to the next level. Really try to find a healthy, functional, great, amazing, sexy relationship with a woman. Go to Black Box Dating and get involved with Dallas's community, because then you're just taking it to the next level. And again, getting involved with other guys, but also getting the help, like Dallas said. I wish I had a Dallas. It would have, knocked off 10 years of my dating life to just get involved in you with you and in your community and talk with you, and not have to just sort through that with my walking stick, trying to blindly figure out what I'm doing.
Whacking young unsuspecting females along the way. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and if you're currently in a situation like we've described here, where you're looking to bring a woman closer into your inner circles of your family, or you're looking to how to navigate things with your ex, join the next Ask a Dating Coach session that we have coming up.
Yeah.
These are perfect situations for you to bring concrete, specific scenarios, just a one-off question. We love to dive into these. One of my favorite things to do is to help articulate for men the thoughts and the feelings in ways that are attractive and bold. And if I'm allowed to say this, it's one of my particular talents, is finding the words that men are looking for to speak to women.
Yeah, absolutely, positively. And our next Ask a Dating Coach is next week, next Thursday, April 16th. So at thedivorcedadvocate.com, if you scroll to the bottom, we've got an events tab. Click on that. You can download it right to your calendar. You can show up every single month. And then to get involved, do you have another cohort coming up? I know you were talking about your
working on the new workshop series that's in development. Yeah, there is. I have weekly office hours that the guys can come to. They're priced very reasonably. I don't remember off the top of my head what the prices are on the website. Go over to blackboxdating.com and you can check it out if you're looking for ongoing guidance and coaching. And in every single one of those weekly gatherings, I have a strategy talk on a specific topic. Last week was a fun one. It was the hidden costs of a situationship. So when you find yourself into a situationship, a lot of times it's convenient, it's nice and all that. Well, I dove into some of the hidden costs, particularly for men, that you have in those situations. And, spoiler alert, you lose your fire. That's the main thing, is that you find yourself kind of in a holding pattern, draining your energy. And so I do a new strategy talk. They're only about 10, 15 minutes long, but we dive into it. And then we have fun conversation afterward, diving into all the material. So jump on over to blackboxdating.com. Check it out.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, guys, a lot less expensive than the hundreds of first dates that I've been on. So go there and spend the little bit now. Otherwise, it's going to drain you over the long run. Not drain you, but it's going to cost you more over the long run for sure. And as always, share this far and wide. We've got, continue to get more and more listeners, and give us a star rating, give us a comment, keep the emails coming in. If you don't like what you heard today, email Dallas. If you like what you heard today, email me.
Wait a minute. We switched it. It used to be the other way around.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, dude. We'll talk to you next week.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What